Hello, everybody. I'm Heidi Hornlein. I'm here with Margherita Crystal Lotus. And our topic of today is the ego's role in healing. And as you probably already know, Margherita is a healer. And today I would like to ask her, what is the ego's role in healing? We have talked twice about the ego. So now, today, what is its role in healing?
Well, thank you, Heidi. This is so amazing to be here again. This topic today is kind of very important, I think, for people who are in therapies, who do practice some kind of facilitation, or even healers who help people to heal, that there is sometimes, for some people, is the notion that I can heal another person. This is not true. I think that this is a point when in healing or in therapies to say, I can facilitate this process for the other person, but the main thing is that each person, you know, it's like when you have a horse and he's thirsty. You can't make him drink, but you can lead that animal to the water hole. But he is the one who has to drink. And it's this very same thing for healing when we are working with illnesses or conditions or unhealthy beliefs. If the person is not ready or doesn't want to do it and thinks that somebody else is going to do it, that's a completely wrong angle. And so the first thing is to actually acknowledge that the person you're working with, that's the person who has to be ready and actually is doing the work. So that's what I want to say in the main point. So what do you think about that, Heidi?
Yeah, I'm trying to sort that out. So ego's role in healing. One is the ego of the healer who pretends to be able to heal a person. And the other is the ego of the person who needs healing, who his ego interferes, his or her ego interferes in the healing process, or can also help it. I mean, this is the question to you. How does the ego, let's go to the ill or needing healing person, how does the ego play a role there? Is it supportive? Is it hindering?
Yeah, so in the beginning of my journey, when I started to work with clients and people who come to ask questions and stuff like that, they have this mindset of, okay, so you go to a doctor and he can take care of it and you just follow the prescription and then you're going to get well. In healing, that's not true. It's not really true. And if somebody comes with that mindset and the healer thinks that they can actually heal the other person, then you set up a really wrong mindset in both of the people. First of all, there's going to be a lot of problem for the healer when the person maybe doesn't get well. And then they blame the healer for that, and I paid you this money and I didn't get well. So that's the one thing, and then you can have a conflict, right? And so when you have a conflict, that's perhaps another issue that needs to be worked out with the two people. But if you, from the first get-go, put yourself in a position of a facilitator instead, to say that I will hold a space for you, and then you have a chance to actually take those decisions yourself. Can you see how much more empowering that is? And it puts the responsibility for the person who is experiencing the problems.
Absolutely, and this is exactly where I see a little bit of a problem, because in our world of today, we think more or less that the body, even the psyche, is a machine. And when it doesn't work well, we put some pills in, and then it will work well again. And we sort of give over the responsibility to the doctors, first of all, or to the healers, because they have to fix us. We are in a fixing society. And also to the pills or to the remedies, to the tools which are used. And, I think it takes a very high level of consciousness to really accept the responsibility for the own being, for the own state of being, and for, if you want to be better, that you accept that it is your job to become better. You can have advice, experience from other people, but it's not their job to make you stay better. And, I'm working in relationships, and this is so the classical belief that the husband or the wife can make happy the other person, or also unhappy. It's your fault when I feel not well, because you have done this to me. This is still so pervasive in our world. It seems normal, that somebody else can make you bad, can make you angry, for instance. Nobody can make you angry, actually. It's you. You become angry, you choose to be angry because of certain triggers you have encountered from the other person. But we still think it's the other person who makes us angry. And this is exactly the same thing. First, we must awake to the idea and then take over this as our real belief, to the idea that we are responsible for our being in the world and for all of it, It's nobody else's fault, nobody else's merit that we are there where we are in the state in which we are.
Yeah, that's so important to have an understanding. And I think the topic of today, the ego and healing and taking responsibility, it's something that's difficult. I was brought up to think that these people are guilty and those people are doing that. And to change the mindset, it's not that easy. So I have very great compassion for those who think that what are they talking about? That's not how it is. But really, if you think about it, if you want to have freedom in your life, have ability to choose what life experience you want, then you have to take that responsibility for yourself. Because really, if you really meditate or consider this, if you take a little step to empower yourself, take back that power to say, I'm going to choose to be well. I'm not going to listen to somebody who says that, well, this is a terminal illness and you have 3 months. Yes, that might be a very good assessment from somebody, a skilled doctor, but still, when the time comes to actually to take back your power, you may want to consider those people who in that situation, like I have a friend who was diagnosed with MS 25 years ago, and they told her that she would be debilitated and very handicapped for the rest of her life. Then she did not accept that. Instead, she started to explore this topic widely, and now has healed it or kept the illness sort of in check. And she has had children after that, and she's teaching others how to actually deal with that particular illness. So if you take that example, you can see what I mean with that, right?
Yeah, I can. I'm wondering the question about the ego. Is it who is the part in yourself who is choosing? Is this an ego? Is it an adult ego, a developed ego? Who is that? And who is the part who is saying, oh no, it's not my fault, it's the doctor has to heal me, and if it doesn't, he's a bad doctor. I go to another one, you know. Can we sort that a little bit out?
Yeah. Okay, so ego, in my view, is what keeps us as an individual here in this lifetime from a cosmic spiritual perspective. So I cannot exist here really in this form, in my body, as a person in this life without having the help of the ego, because the ego is that part of us that is individual. And the ego, as we talked before, looks to the past to see what the safest way would be. So when we mature our ego, we learn about how to manage our ego to our more spiritual essence and our inner guidance. Then we can use our ego to carry out our decisions. And so does that help? Is that answering your question?
What I understand by your explanation that this is a form that we are in our adult, in our developed ego for being able to take over responsibility for our own well-being. Is it true?
Yes, like I'm working with my ego and I have this inner self-talk. Shall I have another coffee right now? No, I'm not going to have another coffee, you know, because I get jittery, right? And then I have this self-talk inside, and then I can say, I see the benefit of not having that, and I decide not to have it. And then the ego then accepts it.
So who is deciding?
Well, it's very tricky. But for me, I can only go from my own experience. I can't speak for other people here. I know when the time comes when I sort of are connected inside with my higher self or my inner self or my spiritual self, it's like a connection. It's like you're plugging in a contact in the electrical outlet. It's like that energy that you connect with the other spiritual aspect of yourself, your inner guidance. And then it's like, I see a wider view, and I can see my parts. That's my little kid who want to have a temper tantrum, and I will deal with her. And then I can see an adult, a person who gets things done. I can see that and manage that. And all of those parts, it's part of myself because the life experience I've had has formed those particular ego fragments, let's say. And the inner guidance self is sort of seeing all those parts. And if you can see that part of you who is a rebellious little kid, you can begin to understand it and manage that. So if that's a super ego or a higher self, I don't know how to call that, because but does that make it clearer?
Yeah, it makes it a little clearer. Super ego, I wouldn't call it. It's too much burdened, this word, with all stuff, you know. So as I understand, at the end, the wise decisions is your higher self. And the not so wise decision, it's a sort of gradation downward. It's different levels of educated or developed ego parts. Is it so?
Yeah, I think.
From the very little small, yeah.
I think so, because we come here in this lifetime, and I'm speaking for a cosmic perspective. You could speak about it from a psychological or therapeutic psychotherapy view, but I'm seeing this like, okay, what is, from that cosmic perspective, what we're here to do. And if you come from that place, it's easier to actually manage our triggers, because everyone have triggers and we react in some ways. And when we work to remove those triggers out of our system and calling back fragments of ourselves that was broken off in a traumatic situation, in an abuse situation, or some accidents, or something like that. It splits us up, and the ego's doing that because it's protecting us from, let's say, a massive trauma that takes over the whole being. So it compartmentalized part of us into small fragments, like the little wounded child, or this go-getter driven business person who doesn't care about other people. I'm just giving that as an example. For myself, I've seen my inner child as a like somebody who was really scared and wanted to fit in and wanted to have praise, to know that she was good. And so I worked with that part of myself and saying, yeah, oh, I see that pattern. I see that in the interaction with another person. Let's say I'm wanting to have confirmation that I'm really good, and then I ask for it. And then when the person doesn't do it, I can feel, oh yeah, that's that old pattern. I got it. I don't need that right now. And so I don't react on those things that I worked out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the question, the ideal healing situation would be that the healer has sort of held and contained her ego in a sort of safe place and has a big connection with the higher self, with the guidance. That means, for instance, has very solid knowledge about what is going on. Like a doctor, they know a lot of things, but has also the quality of intuition, of sensing what is the right thing to do. And sometimes it might be not the thing which the orthodox medicine would have told him, So this would be the healer in connection with the higher self. And then the client also induce the client this possibility to get into contact with his or her higher self and lead him in that part to the self-responsibility, to just guide the way. It is nothing to ask, you have to do that and that and that, no, but sort of inspire by their own experience, by their own example as a healer, inspire the client to step into the same place of connection, of sensing, of feeling into oneself, intuiting what is the right thing for me, instead of just believing somebody says that, somebody says that, oh God, what shall I do? This would be the ego part, no? When they are connected by the guidance of the healer with their own deep sensing, intuition part, connected part with, as you said, the universe, the goodness of life, I would call that, then healing can come. But the thing is, healing does not always mean not to die.
Oh, yes.
And this is a little bit paradox. We have healing, this fear of death. So healing means only, don't let me die. I can be in every situation like this, but I want to live. This is not, The healing means is a different level too. It's not necessarily physical healing. It is also physical healing. But there can be healing in quite a different place. And I wonder if you can speak a little bit to that.
Well, I had the brush with death. It happened when I was a teenager, and I don't think my siblings knew about this, but we had a summer place in the archipelago in Sweden, and there was a little island we were on, and we were there a couple of weeks, and actually it was a friend's place. And so there was a little place where we could swim, where it was like not so deep, maybe to the maximum 10 meters to the other little island, and that was like a 200 meter or so away. So then we played, and I'm the oldest of 5, so we all played there, and I was maybe 13 or something like that. And then we had this race. We're going to dive down and swim as far as we can, and then see who wins. So that was kind of a game. And then I realized that, of course, I was the oldest, and I'm very combative, you know, like I'm going to go all the way over to the other side, which is kind of, I don't think I would have been able to do it. And so I swam and swam and swam under the water, and all of a sudden, because I was really focused, I realized I need to go up. But what happened was I actually hit my head on the bottom. And then I was stunned. And then there was an opening of some other thing that happened, and, you know, pictures flying through my mind of what happened in my life, and it happened like that. And I wasn't in panic, but I was in another state. And then after a while, I heard this voice, you need to go up now. You need to go up now. Come back. You're going to swim to the surface now. And I get goosebumps when I think about it. And then I swam up. It was maybe 5 meters up or something like that. I don't really know. And so I was like way out. And then I came up to the surface, and I discovered that my siblings, they were really worried about me, and I've swam 3 times longer than them. And then I swam in and say they didn't know where I was. And in that moment, at having that experience, I lost the fear of death, because I knew I'm just going to transition into another place. So if a healer has that experience, then there is a safety, right? Because then they can hold that space. And then the person can have that realization for themselves. And this is what I want to do for all my clients, and I'm working towards that goal, to remove whatever the fear is, because then the life experience becomes joyous. And however long our life is, we're still going to die and leave this body behind. It's set out. You cannot circumvent that in any way. That's how the rule is here in the physical dimension. But if we can create that life experience that is more joyful, because the person have let go of the baggage and the triggers, then that's the goal for my healing practice, at least. So I want to share that with other people too.
Yeah, this is wonderful, because what you say, and what I deeply believe, is if a healer or a doctor, whoever the helper's person is afraid of his or her own death, how can they really help other people? This is one thing. And the other thing, the real joy and acceptance of life, you actually can only have when you are okay with your death. You know? Because if you have fear of death, you have also fear of life. Because you wouldn't really taste life when you constantly have the fear of death behind. So
this is so true. It's so true. Very true. And many people have also other fears, but maybe deep down it's the fear of death, or the ultimate fear. It was proposed by somebody, was the act of that we were separated from our higher self, or God, let's say, in the first place by coming here, because we're disconnected from our high self, and then we're trying to get back. We're searching for something that we want. We want to connect with that. And then the mind, the ego, then fabricates some idea how to explain it, because that's the ego's job. Oh yeah, that's because of that. Okay, I understand now. And then I can calm down. But when the ego is not well informed, we can believe something that's really, really harmful for us. You see what I mean?
Yeah, it reminds me of a nice book I really loved by Ken Wilber, The Atman Project, when he says that the ultimate desire of every human or every being is to reconnect with that, what you call the higher self, or or God, or whatever. And so we are in constant search. in constant search for something, and often we don't even know what we are searching for. And some people create this Atman project, for instance, to search for money or to search for appreciation or search for all these things which are worldly things and which give a certain satisfaction, but not this complete satisfaction. So by the impulse is right, you know, to go out and search for it. But often we are searching on the wrong, on the wrong way, on the wrong path, you know. And it's really, really, really interesting what you say. So healing would be searching on the right path, the path of connection.
The thing is, when you have a problem, and anyone who's listening who have a problem, then that is the cue to healing, because then you would search a solution for that problem. And in the road to search that solution for that problem you have, then you brush up with your triggers, you brush up against your inner fears so that you can release it. So even something like an illness is just like that. It triggers you to actually seek a solution for it. And then you can clean up, let's say, or sort out the triggers you have inside. And then if you do that in your lifetime, then you can die very happy, and you are not afraid of death.
And you obviously are talking about solutions which are not take 10 different types of pills, something like that, but you are talking about the solution you find in yourself in reconnecting to yourself and reconnecting to your spirit.
Right, and then even if you take a solution like take these pills or do these remedies, that will lead you closer to the real reason why you actually had that problem in the first place. And so our life becomes let's say, exciting or not so exciting detective story, where if you know that, okay, my ego I can use my ego as the detective and see the guilty parties, which is some of our ego personas, right? Of course, other people also have these, so we can interact with these different parts of each other, and it becomes like a great drama, you know. But if you know that you're in charge of it, you're in charge of your own drama, and then you stop it, then that's when maybe the symptom or the problem disappears. You know, and that's so lovely. It's like great. If I solve a problem permanently, then I'm never going to have that problem again. I might get another problem, but that's okay. So right now, I say, okay, bring it on, bring it on. I'm not holding back. I just want to finish this journey and, you know, clean myself up. And I think as long as you're in form, except if you're enlightened or a saint or something, which I'm not, I'm still working on my stuff, then have something to still do. And then that's the reason for living, I think. The mission, I think, the Dalai Lama said that, you know, the mission is to be happy, something like that. And what I understand with what he said is that if I go and clean up or resolve those fears I have, or actually deal with those difficult people that I have, or the difficult financial situation, whatever it is, I gain this merit in myself that I can handle that. I can handle that. I don't have to take that personally. I own it. I still have to do the physical actions when I am in the physical form, and so this is not about that, but the inner landscape becomes clearer, and you can widen your vision, and you can have clarity about, oh, that's how I'm going to proceed. Okay, and then the guidance that it's there already, you can perceive it, and that's a beautiful point if you reach that.
Can we name it in the way that you become ever more aware about yourself and about your parts and about the connection and about what you can do. So from moment to moment, become more aware, because it is a very, let's say, old wisdom that the more you watch an object, the more you get into contact with it, the more you can embrace it. And if you watch yourself, you know, the different parts working out, and this one does this one does this, and the other one is, you feel better when it is like that. The more you see it and the more you know it, the more you are empowered. You were talking about empowered, and the more you make conscious choices to align with your ego when it is needed, and often it is needed, or to align with this inner guidance, you become receptive and do what you really, let's say, hear. You said hear, you heard the voice. Some other people don't hear, but maybe they have the idea, or it's just, they just have to do this action just now, you know. So I think it has to do with alertness and awareness, to get ever more, let's say, details into your perspective, to open, as you say, to open up, to perceive ever more things, not only outside, but first of all, inside, what is going on.
Well, you can see your life as a soap opera, right? Or a theater play, big drama. You know, these are the wars against the other people or whatever. Like this, you know, Shakespeare and all of the other people who writing dramas and theater plays. If you see that, if you can visualize that your life is like that theater play, and you think you're one of the actors, that's the wrong view. You are the theater play with all of those actors, and the higher self is the director of this play. And when you put yourself in the director's chair, you can see, okay, so this drama that's playing out in my life, okay, so can I do wise choices here so that other people can learn some more about this and I could evolve further? You have to be aware. But you have to also have the understanding that you actually can take charge like a director of your life. It doesn't mean that you're going to control other people. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. And if they let you do what is best for you, then that is also best for the other people. Because the thing is, if we see the cosmos, the thing that is where we came from, let's say, if you can see it as a vast ocean or field that permeates everything, it's also called the morphogenic fields, or the field of all possibilities. It's like underpinning of all the physical reality, and in every piece of space and time, this field exists. And that's sort of my understanding of let's say, God and consciousness. And my little particle in there is my higher self that is fully plugged in to this all-wise field. And if everybody connects into this field, then we tap into the same wisdom. Because if you have a war, let's say, you have a division in your mind that it's me and the other guilty party. And the result of having that mindset is that we create a war against ourselves. Can you understand that? Is that a helpful metaphor?
It is very helpful, and what I really like, and I think we can use it as a quintessence of the whole talk, that you are not a single player in a play, but you are all these figures in the play. Your ego has all these parts. I mean, it's divided in all these actors and actresses in the play of your life, and that the higher self is the director of this play. This is really a wonderful metaphor.
Yeah.
I really thank you, Margherita. I really think this brings it to the point. That's marvelous.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I've studied a lot of things, but this is mostly my thoughts about what has come into my field. And of course, I'm not originating anything. I'm just synthesizing what I've learned from many other sources. But this is what or maybe you who's listening here too needs to do to become happy and become satisfied and understand why you're here. Because when you do, you will have far less suffering. You will have far less problems. And you have a way of actually learning, oh yeah, I see this bigger perspective. And that is something that I wish for everyone to have. You know, get plugged into the guidance that everyone have. Yes.
Wonderful. So let's find a final word for a final sentence. The ego's role in healing.
Well,
how can we?
Yeah, the ego's role in healing is to make you aware of where your work is cut out for you. Because we come in here with some kind of ideal issues or problems. Unless you're born enlightened or an avatar, even the avatars that are born, they still have to educate themselves as a small child and go through the lessons and learnings and learn the language or whatever in that particular time era or culture. So we come here to actually learn something new. And I think maybe the greater sense, I've had some thoughts about that, it's the consciousness itself. This is the way how consciousness itself evolved. And that's, we can do a philosophical excavation of that, but this is sort of the synthesis of what I've found so far.
Okay. And I thank you very much. My idea of the ego, I have told you last time, you know, it's very near to that, to use. It is more from the psychological view and really work with these little parts and to make them grow up towards an adult part and to go into connection too with the higher self. This is always there. I find it very valuable that we have different perspectives and to find out how we can meet each other, or how we can even not accelerate, how you can say that, I don't find the word just now, how you can help the other point of view evolve while we are listening to, you know, to the other point of view. How can my point of view evolve? Now I think I've got it right in the right order. So sometimes with the English words I don't find them anymore. Anyway, I really thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to next week's talk. We will be next week with another topic. I'm not yet sure what it will be, but I think we will develop this chain of topics we have already done so far.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm looking forward to see everybody again. And this is such an exciting journey, and we will be guided to what we're going to talk about next week. Thank you so much for listening. And this is Margherita Crystal Lotus at the crystallotus.com. If you want more information, just go there to that site. Thank you.
Thank you, Margherita. Bye-bye.